Everybody, welcome back to another edition of Inside the Zone with Mateo. But boys, we got a special edition today because today is June 1st, 2026, and it is starting a brand new series. All month long, there will be one video a day. Yes, I normally post only Tuesdays and Thursdays, but guess what? If you don't know already, I've been promoting it for a while. But welcome to 30 teams in 30 days, where each day we will spend 25 to 30-ish minutes talking about each NBA team. This will be an NBA off-season preview, as well as a recap on each team of how well they did, last NBA season. So yeah, welcome to NBA. Welcome to 30 teams in 30 days. I'm super excited you're here. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe button so you don't miss more of these. But yes, we are taking a deep dive through each NBA team during the month of June. And just so you know how the order we're going to do things with, obviously we're starting with the Wizards. This is what the order is going to look like. We're going to go through the worst record all the way to the best record. So each day there you can see. You can pause the video if you want. We'll show it again at the end of the video. June 1st, Wizards. June 2nd, Pacers, and it's so on and so forth. For the Timberwolves, since we are Minnesota podcast, so just so you guys know, Timberwolves fans, June 21st will be your day. Laker fans, if you're interested, June 25th will be your day. So put it in your calendar. It's just in order of record, worst record to best record. So OKC obviously is going to end things up. So let's go. Let's start it. This is how it's going to work. Mateo Show batting order. For those who do not know, across the podcast, through all these different podcasts on the channel, we use Mateo Show batting order. And it's basically just a show roadmap, if you will. And it's going to be the same batting order for each day here in the series. Dude, I'm so happy. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this day to happen for a long time. But this is what it's going to be like. There's going to be a couple things. We're going to talk about how well did these teams do last season. Who I think they should draft. Who I think they should keep, with free agents and stuff. Who I think they should target. And finally, we'll wrap things up with a short little, what do I think is their early ceiling and their floor? A, if they keep their team relatively the same, but B, if they make some of the moves I suggest. So without further ado, we're talking about the Washington Wizards today. Bam! The 2025-2026 season. Recapping the team's record, players, and just my thoughts on their overall NBA season. So without further ado, let's get it. The recap, boys. I forgot to add their logo. It's okay. It's the first day of the series. We'll edit it even more as the series prolongs. But the record was 17-65. They were the 15th spot in their conference. Their top scorer was Trey Johnson, but also Alex Sarr. Because here's the thing here. If you take a look at their roster, and we'll take a look at their team leaders and stuff, Alex Sarr only played 48 games. He did average 16.3 points, but Trey Johnson played 60 games and averaged 12.2 points. So just because he played more games, they award the team leader to Trey Johnson. The top assister was Bub Carrington with 4.6 assists he averaged. And then Justin Champagnie was the top rebounder for the Washington Wizards, averaging 5.6 rebounds per game. They do have the first overall pick, but we'll talk about that in a second. Here's a little bit more in-depth about these teams. If you wanted to take a little look, obviously, CJ McCollum, he got traded to the Atlanta Hawks. But as a member of the Wizards, he was averaging about 19 points in 35 games. Alex Sarr, again, struggled with injuries. Hopefully, he bounces back from that this upcoming season. He averaged 16.3. Trae Young, in 5 games, obviously, only a 5-game sample size, 15 points. Pretty good. Keyshawn. Yeah, I believe it's Keyshawn George. Yeah, Keyshawn George. Keontae plays over there in Utah, which we'll do pretty shortly in this first week of 30 teams in 30 days. He was averaging 15 points in 48 games. Hardy. Jaden Hardy, 23 games. Off the bench, he averaged about 13 points. Trey Johnson, there you go. He played the most amount of games out of these players that we've mentioned already. He averaged 12 points, again, rebounds, not really about 3 rebounds, and then 2 assists. He was just their best scorer over the times he played. Reese averaged 12 points, as well as Koulibaly. And then Williams, in 4 games, averaged 11. In 82 games, Bub Carrington averaged 11 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds. Will Riley, I believe. Yeah. Will Riley, 10 points in 74 games. Chris Middleton obviously got traded. Bagley got traded. A couple of guys. Kispert got traded. Champagny averaged 9 points. And so much more. But that's kind of a look at these player stats. Some other team leaders. Koulibaly, 1 block he was averaging. Steals, he was also averaging close to 1.5 steals a game. And that's some of these team leaders here. But again, as an overall injuries, obviously injuries they dealt with a little bit here. Just I think we can show. I guess they don't have any injuries now. That's I guess that's fine. But yeah, they were 17-64. They obviously earned the number 1 overall pick. That's obviously an important thing that we'll talk about. But again, this roster is a very interesting roster. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we get to, free agency and stuff, but a lot of young guys still on rookie deals. Obviously, some big names. Anthony Davis they have, Trae Young they have, or so we think. D'Angelo Russell's still there. Alex Sarr is a young, intriguing name. So, again, this is a very interesting team over there in our nation's capital that I'm really interested to see just, how they put together this squad, right? I'm going to be really interested to see who steps up, who he's not a member of this team, who is an additional member, because they do have some cap space that will work around there. But I guess that probably, since they were 17-65 and, now they have the number 1 overall pick, that's a perfect segue to, talking about the draft, right? The draft. Sorry about that. It does that. I don't know why it freaks out every time I go back to PowerPoint. But yeah, we're going to preview the specific team's upcoming draft, addressing their biggest need. Yes, we're going to be simulating a little bit of a mock draft to see who's on the board. But for this video, it's not going to be that hard to do the mock draft because, they have the first overall pick. They got the first overall pick because they were bad. So, we could obviously be, just to make this official, we're going to use ESPN's mock draft. We're on the clock. Here are the top 5 players according to ESPN. Sure, they could trade. But that's not going to happen. When you're going up and down this roster, right? That's why I left ESPN up, because I'm going to go back to their depth chart here. It's sometimes easier to kind of break these things down when you take a look at their depth chart. Here it is. Trae Young, most likely he's going to come back. He does have a player option that I'm guessing he will take. Anthony Davis, most likely going to come back unless, I guess, he gets traded, because that's definitely an option we could take. And we'll maybe throw him into a trade finder and maybe work around some trades if necessary. But they got a lot of young guys. However, there's some holes. Now, when you take a look at the best players available, AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Cam Boucher, one of those 3 players are going to go number 1. The Washington Wizards have a lot of bigs. They got Anthony Davis for the time being, Alex Sarr, Champagny, and company. They have a point guard, so they don't necessarily need a Darren Peterson. For this, all signs are pointing to them getting AJ DeBonsa. There's about 95% chance that they take AJ DeBonsa. We don't need to do the rest of this mock draft because, we don't care. We don't care, right? They do have another pick, I believe, in the second round here. Yeah, we could end up going through. I'm not going to really, they have 2 more picks. I'm not going to go through the second round because I just don't really think it's going to be that necessary. And so adding AJ DeBonsa to this team would slide him probably at the starting small forward. And then this Koulibaly, I really hope I'm pronouncing that guy's name right. I'm sorry. We'll add depth to your team. So you're looking like for this team, Trae Young, Keyshawn George, AJ DeBonta, Anthony Davis, Alex Sarr. That's a really talented starting five. Then you got Carrington, Johnson, Champagny. Who knows about your backup center? Got Koulibaly, or however you pronounce that guy's name. Apologize. Obviously, these injuries aren't going to be a factor. Hopefully, at least. And I just think an AJ DeBonta, that's just the clearest. Like, obviously, for some teams that have later picks, this section of the video is going to be a little longer. But again, I don't want these to be my normal hour to 40-minute videos, right? I don't want it to be that long. I want it to be shorter so you guys come back, right? And just it's a quick offseason preview. But yeah, I think AJ DeBonta just makes the most sense. Now, if they did not go out and trade for Trae Young, I would definitely consider having them take Darren Peterson. However, they have Trae Young, and I think Trae Young really wants to be in Washington. I think he's happy to be in Washington. And I think, the stars are aligning for AJ DeBonta to be the number 1 overall pick. I just think that makes the most sense. So now, that's the draft part. Obviously, there's going to be different flows for each episode. There's going to be different flows. Maybe we'll spend a little bit more time recapping the season for the Timberwolves, just because I know a lot bit more about the Timberwolves. Maybe we'll spend more time talking about the draft with, the things OKC could do, right? Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about trades with some certain teams. It's just going to be really interesting, and it's going to make the episodes a little different. So the start of free agency, though, is the first part of free agency where we're going to decide who they should keep and who they should let walk. So this is who their own free agents are looking like. So obviously Trae Young is going to have a player option worth up to $49 million. If he doesn't take that, he's probably not going to get a more expensive. He's going to get a cheaper offer. So most likely he'll take that money. He'll make $49 million for this year, and then he'll be eligible for an extension, and we'll see what happens there. So, I'm over here in Fanspo because we'll work on some trades and stuff. I'm going to just initially go here. I'm going to modify this contract here. Normally, you can take that player option. I would normally, yes. I think he'll take that player option most likely, right? He'll take that player option. So that will, can I actually do that? Hold up. Technically, you can't. Whatever. That's the annoying thing here. It's like you can't always do it. So we're not going to necessarily. Oh, there we go. Maybe? No? Can we actually not, bro? Anyway, it is what it is. Trae Young probably going to be taking that $49 million player option. It just makes sense, right? It makes sense. D'Angelo Russell is going to have a $6 million player option, which I also think he probably will take. And to be honest, I think that's a really solid option, being one of your backup point guards, D'Lo, unless D'Lo gets traded. Like, I could see that. Like, I could see him getting thrown into a trade. But, you got Bub Carrington, obviously. But D'Lo just provides another veteran in this team because, again, it's a young team. You need a mixture of youth and vets, especially on a very young team. DeBonta is going to be here as well now, so you're just getting even younger. So veterans are super important. And then, to be honest, I think a lot of these players don't get re-signed. Okay? I really think a lot of these players, not even making too much, just don't get signed. Maybe a couple of these younger guys pick up the club option on Watkins or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But other than that, I think D'Lo, Trae Young, they pick up their player options, and then these other guys you pretty much let walk, or at least that's what I would do. So again, there's not a lot of players, because a lot of players are still on their rookie deals for a couple of years, so you don't really have to worry too much about that if you're Washington. But now free agency. Predicting who these teams will pursue, who they will sign, either by the open market or by a trade. So, before we get to my top targets, here's a look at who's an available free agent. Obviously, LeBron James. He'll be an available free agent, but again, I don't think he's going to go to Washington. There's a lot of, these are like the top unrestricted free agents. Obviously, there are restricted free agents that you could add here. Guys like Trae Young, Zach LaVine, James Harden, who have player options, club options. Hartenstein has a club option. Andrew Wiggins, who these guys could end up being available, but a lot of these player options are going to be selected because they are worth so much money. So for the sake of this, until we hear otherwise, I'm going to keep it mostly on unrestricted free agents, just for the sake of the realistic possibilities. Like, if I say somebody they're going to go get a restricted free agent and then he actually just goes back to their team on a player option, it just doesn't age well. But like you can see guys like McCollum and Middleton who they let go in those trades, expiring deals. I don't think I see them taking one of those guys back. I think there's a lot of interesting names though. Colin Sexton's one of those. Harrison Barnes is another one. Kevin Huerter is another one. There's just a bunch of guys that, when addressing the Wizards, I think the biggest thing that they're going to need here is to fill out that bench. I think that starting group of Trae Young, Keyshawn George, probably AJ DeBonsa, Anthony Davis, and Outstar to at least start the year is a pretty dang good starting lineup, starting five, as long as they can stay healthy. And then their bench, Carrington, Johnson, Koulibaly. Again, I apologize if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. Shenpenny. That's a solid bench. But you're gonna have money, so why not? Why not? It's that you have like $13 or so million. You'll probably get a little bit more. You'll get some other options here with some of these guys not being re-signed. So this goes into who I think are some of these top targets for the Washington Wizards. And bam, here it is. Here are my top five. Not top five. These are just four options, but guys like this, I think would be perfect. Harrison Barnes is up there, but I didn't add him onto the slide. Why not bring in Justin Shenpenny's brother? Why not? I feel like that could be awesome. I feel like that could just be cool. Obviously, he does have a team option on him. As you can see here, he's got a team option. However, even if that doesn't happen, maybe you do a trade, and we can experiment a trade, what that would look like. But here, let's even do this. Let's add the second team. That would be San Antonio. San Antonio needs to save some money. They're gonna have to extend guys like Devin Vassell and Dylan Harper eventually. So maybe getting off a little bit of this. I mean, it is a cheap deal, but trade him to the Wizards, right? Trade him to the Wizards. We should probably actually first, though. We should probably first make sure team option. You pick up the team option. Yeah, you can keep him. Perfect. Good. Just want to make sure that was good because sometimes you have weird things in Fanspo. But Fanspo is a really good trade trade machine that you should definitely look at. But really, you could do this straight up and keep the money. I think, to keep this, you're going to have the money. I don't think the Spurs are going to ask a lot for him. So maybe you throw them a Will Riley. Maybe you do that. Maybe you throw him a Cam Whitmore who has a club option or something on him. You could do that. But I think more realistically, I don't even know if you need a first round pick. The Wizards, they got a couple second round picks, right? Maybe throw in a second round pick for this year. Well, I don't care. Maybe a second round pick for this year. Rob Dillingham went for a couple second round picks and a player. So we're going to go 3 second round picks. And then maybe a player. Not a Will Riley. I think maybe a Whitmore. Just because, you guys, a Whitmore could work. Because I just don't see him fitting, especially if they take AJ DeBonsa. Then you just have a lot of small forwards. I think that could work. Let's put Whitmore here, trade him to the Spurs. And I think this trade works. It's failed just because there's the club options, I'm pretty sure, right? After trade deadline, cannot with the team option. Right, it's the team options. But both are under the allowable incoming. So just because of these options, it's just not making it work. But it does work financially. All right. I don't know. I didn't add a first round pick. That's supposed to be another second round pick. I apologize. That should not be a first round pick. But like 3 seconds, maybe even 2 seconds in Whitmore for Julian Champagny, that would work financially. It's like simple trades like that here. Like that's the thing. That seems it could be a realistic trade that brings in somebody who has that experience, has the relationship with Justin Champagny. So you got the Champagny brothers there. That's pretty cool, right? But also guys like Colin Sexton you could sign. Quentin Grimes you could sign. Dean Wade you could sign just for those additional veteran-ish players, early veteran players, younger veteran players. I just think those are the types of guys Washington should go out and sign. Like, they already have some stars. They went for some, right? They went for some stars, right? They went for stars by doing all those trades, right? If they can just go get somebody like Colin Sexton, like, I don't know how much it would take. He's a free agent. I think you could probably get him maybe a standard contract, right? Maybe 2 years. Maybe even 2 years. Yeah, maybe 2 years. I don't know. His previous contract, what was his previous contract at with the Bulls? He got traded. It was $17 million. I know that's a little much. So maybe you try, can you give him 20? I don't know if it's possible to give him about 20 mil for those 2 years. I don't know if it's possible financially. Like, say you add him, you're a little bit you're under the first apron, but you still stay. Sorry, you're over the first apron, but you stay under the second apron, which it works. So that could work. Maybe it's too much for a guy like Colin Sexton. So maybe you say, okay, maybe that doesn't work. Maybe it is going out and getting a smaller guy, maybe like Dean Wade, making probably like 10-ish million. Or a guy, maybe Quentin Grimes. Maybe you can afford that. Maybe you end up trading a little guy to make some more cap space, maybe get another second round pick, maybe get a late first round pick in a couple years, and then make money for a guy like that. I think that's what this team's missing. I don't think they're missing too much. However, there's still a lot of variables that come into play here. Health is a big one, especially with Young and Anthony Davis. Those guys, man, those guys have to stay healthy if the Wizards want to probably compete this year. But then again, what about a bigger trade? Because Anthony Davis, there's been some trade rumors that, Anthony Davis maybe doesn't want to be in Milwaukee. Well, there's always this guy named Giannis Antetokounmpo that we're going to probably talk a lot about moving forward. Giannis goes to the Wizards. I don't know if this is realistically, but Anthony Davis's salary lines up perfectly with Giannis. Now, obviously, that wouldn't do it. I don't think that would work. Obviously, Antetokounmpo's in way better shape than Anthony Davis is in. But why not? You have one pick already. Throw in a 27 first round pick. Throw in maybe even like they have a lot of picks left. What about like a 2030, sorry, that's a second rounder, 2031 pick, 2 first round picks, and Anthony Davis for Giannis. I think you'd probably want more just because it is Giannis. Maybe you give one of these younger players. Maybe that's where a Will Riley comes in. Maybe that's where a Bub Carrington comes in. I don't think that probably would be realistic for a Bub Carrington, but maybe Will Riley. Maybe it's a Will Riley trades to the Bucks. They still get Anthony Davis, who they could work around with. Let's try the trade. Let's just see. I don't know if this will work. It would work. So something like this could definitely work. Obviously, I think Giannis wants to go to a contending type of team like a Minnesota or, I don't know, maybe the Knicks. However, who knows? Like, things like this could happen. Maybe you even add an additional pick. Maybe you go 3 picks, Anthony Davis and Will Riley. I'd be intrigued by this trade, right? I'd be intrigued by this trade. And then you got Giannis and Alex Sarr with Trae Young, who we already know, similar play style to Damian Lillard. They won a title there with a good big setting screens. I don't know. It could work. It's just fascinating. Obviously, I don't want to get too excited. But Wizards, it's possible. You have a big contract in Anthony Davis that you can do things like this. Another player that could work with this is this one might not be as realistic, but Boston. The salaries again line up perfectly. You do Anthony Davis to the Celtics, gives them another veteran over there. Jaylen Brown wants to be in the center of a new team. He goes over there, and I think possibly you could maybe get you could do a little less for Jaylen Brown, because maybe you just do, again, probably a first round pick at 27. Then you do probably, I think Will Riley just makes the most sense to be in this trade. And then maybe you add an additional pick. Maybe you could even do the same trade package. Maybe you do the same trade package, 2031, 2 firsts, Will Riley, Anthony Davis for Jaylen Brown, and it is a success. So again, the Wizards have a lot of flexibility. The Wizards have a ton of flexibility, which just makes it very interesting. It's very interesting because you have flexibility with Anthony Davis. Say you sign Trae Young to a new deal. Maybe then at the trade deadline, it's not working. You can trade him for someone. Like, I'm telling you, the Wizards, guys, you have a lot of upside. A lot of upside that I'm really excited for. But so now here, the last thing of this is your current ceiling and floor. If you guys make some moves that I suggested, maybe you make some signings, little signings, I think you make the playoffs. I really do. But without the moves, you kind of keep the team the same. I think you're going to make the playoffs. If you make the playoffs with the moves I suggested, you're going to be a play-in team, right? Like a 5 or 6, probably no, a 7 or 8 seed, right? I think without the moves, you can flirt with like a 9-10 spot. Maybe you win a play-in game, but I think you could also be or below. Like, these are your ceilings, if you will. The playoffs with the moves I suggested, that's a ceiling, meaning probably a first round exit. But I could maybe see an argument, maybe if you get Giannis or someone like that, or Jaylen Brown, maybe you do get past the first round. But the point here, without the moves, it's either like a very low play-in seed or maybe like the 11th or 12th seed, kind of like we saw with the Bulls this season. Like, they started good, and then they just kind of sold at the deadline to try to get a better pick, and then they ended up getting the 4th overall pick. So we'll see them in a couple days. But I think that's kind of what I'm thinking of right now with the Washington Wizards. Let me know what you guys think, Wizards fans. Do you think any of these moves are realistic? Do you think you should just run it back with this new team? Obviously, you did a lot of stuff at the deadline, so maybe you just think, okay, we want to see it for a little bit. And I'm really excited. I think AJ DeBonta is going to be a great piece for you. I think he has what it takes to probably win Rookie of the Year. And it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun to see what that happens, and just what happens with the Wizards in general. And obviously, it's the offseason, so we can stay pumped up. They have not played a game yet, right? We haven't seen them play a game yet. They haven't lost a game yet, so we can stay pumped up and excited. And I really do hope you guys enjoyed the first episode here of this new series, 30 teams in 30 days. We'll get it down in a second. Coming up next, again, new team tomorrow. Stay tuned. For sure, hit that like button and subscribe button. But then after June, the Tuesday and Thursday episodes resume. We'll maybe throw in some more episodes throughout the summer here, especially because I have less school to work on. But once school hits, back to Tuesday and Thursday episodes. But also, I try to hit almost daily shorts out there. I might throw out some recaps of these 30 teams in 30 days episodes. I try to live stream a little bit here and there, either live play-by-play and reaction to games, or just fun episode, maybe live podcast episodes here and there. So for sure, be on the lookout for those. Kingdom Competitors every Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern. You know what that is by now if you're a member of this channel. But if you don't, we take a look at Christian athletes and what they believe, because I love to keep God first of what I do here on this channel. He needs to be first in everything in life, whether it's sports, whether it's friends. He needs to be number one on top of that power ranking list at number one, to throw in a little sports context there. And that's why I close every episode with don't forget to keep God first, because he's the most important thing in your lives, because he has to be. Without God, what is life? And I like to keep him at the center of what I do. But anyway, that's besides the point. Here, one more look at what 30 teams in 30 days the schedule will look like. Tomorrow, we got the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton returning from injury. I really do hope you join me for episode 2. Same time, same place here on YouTube. And here it is. Don't forget to keep God first because he's the most important thing in your lives. I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a great day. Let's go, bro. We did this. We did it. We started the series. 29 more episodes to go. I'll see you guys later. Peace.